Hi, my name is Steph. I'll be showing you how to load a sample. You have your pre-prepared sample on silica and you put it into a tube. Tube goes in here, tighten that there, put the sheath on, ready to go in the instrument. Okay, so I'm just going to load the solvents. We've got hexane and ethyl acetate for this particular run. So tools, solvent loading, load, select all the solvents you can use here. You can add your own solvents. Hexane, auto prime. That will automatically prime that solvent. As the solvents are priming, I can just load the sample, put that on, get it ready, and put on a cartridge. So the solvents are loaded. I've actually loaded the sample and the column is ready to go. Now we shall select the method. So my solvent A shall be hexane, solvent B shall be ethyl acetate. I want to run the table. I want to run beginning with hexane 100%, insert below, so just add more steps. We want to stay at 100% hexane for 1 minute. Then we wish to go to 100% hexane in 5 minutes. So that's 1 minute at 0, 5 minutes to go to 100, and stay at 100 for 1 more minute. So that is my test mix method. I can now select the flow rate, which I want to be 36, turn on the ELSD, turn on the UV, my purge time, equilibration time, 4.8 minutes. It's also column volumes if you wish. 7.2 column volumes, that's a bit much for this purpose, so we'll make that 2 minutes of calibration. And you can turn on slope detection or turn it off. I don't like slope detection. You can select all your wavelengths here. I'll make that 240 because ethyl acetate absorbs at 220. And then let's see what the issue is. So reset that, and now we can start. Select the name, call it test. Okay, begin, override. So we have the left tray is available. It's asking you to confirm that there are tubes in the left tray. This is a dry sample, not a liquid injection. So dry sample, and now it's asking me, is the loader connected? Yes, it is. And that's how it starts. And we'll come back after the run has begun. So it'll do a 2-minute equilibration time. So the column is equilibrated for almost 2 minutes. We're almost finished. So at this point you cannot change anything of the running conditions, but you can hit stop if you need to. If you see a leak at the column, if you see a leak on the sample. So now it's flushing the fraction collector. So flushing FC. It'll baseline the sensors. So the pumps stop. Get a stable reading. The ELSD is on all the time. The UV lamp is only on when required. There is no warm-up time. There is no warm-up time for the ELSD either. So now you can see it's now running at 0, so the solvent pressure will rise to about 30-35 psi. At this point I can change the view. I can take away all the signals. I can only see the ELSD signal if I want to, or select any of those signals. I can collect the peaks, I can collect the baseline, or I can collect nothing if I want to take the rack away. So I like to collect the peaks because I know what the sample is. If this was an unknown sample, I would collect the baseline. You now see a color, the corresponding tube, and you will see a color for the peak, but it's only baseline. If there was a very small peak or something that you're not expecting, you can always go to the next tube. So goes to the next tube. So now there's a very small peak. Let's look at that peak in closer detail. So that's probably a bit of noise from the old cartridge that I'm using. So let's just stop the collection. So you can see the ELSD signal is there. You can remove that signal trace, but the data still remains. I can change the flow. I can make it 30, but it should be 36. I can add an additional step just by putting my finger here and doing that, or take that step and remove it. It goes back to the original. You can change all those conditions. What you cannot change is the wavelength, the sensitivity. Everything else can be changed. Our first compound has come out, and as you can see, there is no UV on the first compound. The second compound is now coming out with ELSD and UV. So if we turn off the ELSD, you would not see that compound. You will only see compound 2 and compound 3 when it comes out. So with the ELSD, that's ethyl acetate. The absorbance of ethyl acetate is coming through, so that's because the wavelength is still too low. So we'll just remove that. So ELSD is on. There's your ELSD trace. Again, it's a very old cartridge that I found. All the new ones have been sent to Thailand. So you can see ELSD trace, UV, and without the ELSD. So from here you can actually increase the flow. You can hold, gradient hold. I want to hold that gradient, so you help the separation of the following compound, all on the fly. Now if you hold the gradient, you will not have a time to finish. You will go indefinitely till you run out of solvent. And I'm about to run out of tubes. So let's release that gradient and not collect anymore. And the third compound will now come out. Again, this is due to the cartridge being a very old cartridge, and there's probably a channel inside that cartridge now. In fact, definitely a channel inside the cartridge. So now we're coming to the end of the run, and there's a really great feature for this instrument where if the signal is above the threshold where we have set, it will continue and add 5 minutes. So with the run and the fraction collected, you can actually select the color of the fraction and it'll give you a corresponding tube position. So really easy to find your fractions. You can make your fractions as large or small as you like. Maximum 25 mil, minimum 1 mil. I like to have it at 2 mil to give me a good indication of the fraction. So now, because it's actually above the threshold, it has actually added 5 minutes to that run. If it didn't add that 5 minutes, you have the option of continuing the run or stopping the run. So at this point I will stop the run because I know there's nothing else there. So I'll hit stop. And then you have the option to actually column flush or sample purge. So now the end of the runs happened. We've collected our fractions in our fraction collection tray. We need to finish off the run by purging air through the columns and the sample to remove all the solvent. So you can just select sample purge. That'll initialize and start running air through the sample, and it'll come through to the waste. So this way you can remove your sample, tube, place it in the bin with no solvents. And we shall do the same thing with the cartridge. When we're finished purging the system, getting all the solvent out of the cartridge lines, the solvent lines for the system, we hit done. We will now see the actual separation that we've completed. So from here you can actually zoom across, as long as I can select it, zoom across there. Now that blue line is absorbance of ethyl acetate. That's why the instrument continued the 5-minute run. It's calling it a signal, but it's not a real signal, it's the solvent. So we should have selected a higher wavelength. From here you can actually go into detail of the peak by zooming again, and then just zoom back out. Also, grab a USB stick on the side of the instrument, and to complete that run you can actually remove all that. It's the run PDF to USB, and it's saving. So you can save all the conditions on the USB has been saved, and it'll look like this. File, print, run reports. So I'll print it, I'll save it on the desktop to give you an idea of what the actual report will look like. So save override the old one. So here's the report. So you can zoom in on that. Let me just make it a bit larger, 100%. So you can have all the conditions, the solvent run speed, the type of solvent, the wavelengths, the sensitivity, all the settings of the instrument. And we'll go down a little bit. And here it gives you the peaks, the gradient, and where all the fractions are in your rack, corresponding to those colors there. So the software is very easy to use. That's one of the comments from most of our customers, that they're all very happy with how simple and easy to use. So you can just select a wavelength here, whatever you like. You can make high sensitivity there, low here, change the threshold. It's all very selectable, and you can actually view an old run during the run of the sample, which I didn't show you. So open run, during the run you can open any other run. That's about it for the software. If you have any other questions, please send me an email or send me a text. You have my details. It's very simple and very user-friendly software package. Thank you.